What's the one word that makes wealthy, intelligent people stop asking questions? Picture a dinner in the Hamptons. The man next to you orders like he owns the place. Tips like money means nothing. And then almost casually, he mentions his family name. By dessert, someone at that table wires him 6 figures. No contract, no collateral, no proof, just one word. This is the story of Christophe Rocancourt, and why the people he fooled were the last ones you'd expect. People believed I was a Rockefeller because they wanted to. That's Christophe Thierry Rocancourt talking, and he's not even trying to sound humble about it. He was born in Honfleur, France, on July 16, 1967, and by the early 1990s, he's in the United States, drifting out of small-time trouble and into a much richer kind of problem. The 1990s are perfect for him. No social media, no quick background checks on your phone in the back of a limo. The whole system runs on who invited you, who introduced you, and whether you look like you belong in the room. And Christophe is preternaturally good at reading rooms. He walks in with a tailored suit, the right accent, the right posture, and this old money ease that says, "I've never waited in line for anything in my life." Then he seals it with the easiest trick in the world. He tips like a man who can't remember what cash is worth. That's the thing about lavish tipping and conspicuous generosity. It's not just kindness, it's a signal. It tells everyone watching, relax, I'm real. And once the staff relaxes, the hosts relax. Once the hosts relax, the guests start relaxing their wallets. In Los Angeles in the mid-1990s, he toggles into his Hollywood version. Now he's a film producer. Now he's a boxing promoter. Sometimes he's both in the same conversation, depending on who's listening. He collects celebrity photos, casual friendships, and introductions the way other people collect business cards, and the credibility rubs off on him like cologne. He doesn't need to close huge deals at first. He just needs to be adjacent to the right names, because in those circles, proximity is basically a resume. If he's seen at the right table, suddenly he's connected. If he's connected, then he's safe. And if he's safe, nobody asks annoying questions. Then comes the upgrade. Around 1997 to 1998, he shifts to New York and the Hamptons and introduces himself with a single word that opens everything: Rockefeller. Not a friend of the family, not worked with them once. He's Christopher Rockefeller, old money heir, real estate investor, born into the kind of wealth that doesn't need to explain itself. And you can almost feel how the room changes when he says it. People straighten up a little. They smile a little harder. They start offering him things before he even asks, because being useful to a Rockefeller feels like buying a lottery ticket where the prize is permanent access. His asks are never framed like desperate needs. They're framed like opportunities for you. A 2-week bridge loan, just to move money around. A quick investment, because a deal is about to close. A little help floating something until paperwork clears. The return is always soon. The risk is always basically none. The collateral is vibes and a last name. Be honest, if someone with that last name asked you for a 2-week loan you could brag about later, are you actually demanding collateral? Or are you nodding so you keep the invite? And once the first money moves, it gets easier. Because the second victim hears, "Oh yeah, he's good for it, I know someone who helped him out." The third person hears he's always around, he's always paying, he's always hosting. Christophe doesn't just borrow money, he borrows confidence from everyone around him and then spends it like cash. In the Hamptons, the checks get bigger. The temporary loans multiply. Real estate talk oils the gears, because nothing makes rich people feel calmer than hearing another rich person talk about property like it's a board game. Multiple victims later report losses and bad checks, but in the moment, nobody wants to admit they might be getting played by a guy who orders like the house belongs to him, and Christophe knows exactly how to keep the spell intact. He name drops. He tells old money anecdotes. He acts mildly offended when someone asks something too direct, like the question itself is proof they didn't grow up correctly. Half the con is money, and the other half is social pressure. When the questions start creeping in, he doesn't argue, he pivots. One day he's a Rockefeller in New York. Next he's back to being a producer in LA. Then he's a boxing guy again because sports money asks different questions than movie money. New zip code, new script, same guy. At some point in this swirl, he reportedly names his son Zeus, which is not subtle. But subtle is for people who plan to stop. The more heat he feels, the bigger the mythology gets. Because myths don't have receipts. Myths have stories. And Christophe is selling stories nonstop. If you challenge him, you're not just challenging a person. You're challenging the fantasy that you're sitting near greatness. But the Rockefeller spell starts costing real money. Bad checks. Bridge loans that never come back. Investment promises that turn into excuses and delays and then silence. In the Hamptons, the complaints pile up enough that Suffolk County investigators start taking it seriously, because now it's not just gossip, it's a pattern. And media attention doesn't help him. The name that opened doors now flags investigators, because Rockefeller is a fun headline when the word next to it is fraud. Suddenly, the same people who didn't want to doubt him also don't want to be associated with him, which means the quiet protection of the room disappears. Suffolk County collects victim statements, and federal prosecutors in the Eastern District of New York start building something bigger than one bad check. A pattern, a traveling identity, a habit of turning charm into money and then leaving the bill on someone else's table. Christophe feels it closing in, so he does what he always does. He moves. He slips out of the US with aliases in tow and heads north, trying to outrun the paperwork with a new address. Up in British Columbia, Canadian authorities start connecting dots. They track his movements across the province, confirm open US warrants tied to the cases back in New York, and in April 2001 they finally get hands on him. No velvet rope, no VIP entrance, just an arrest and a cell, while extradition grinds forward. And this is the moment his whole performance collapses into something boring and official. The alias evaporates on contact with fingerprints. Christopher Rockefeller disappears, and Christophe Rocancourt shows up on the paperwork in British Columbia like a splash of cold water. In 2002, he's extradited back to the United States, and by September 2003, he pleads guilty in U.S. federal court to fraud-related charges. He's sentenced to time served, about 2 years in custody, ordered to pay roughly $1.2 million in restitution, and told he's getting deported. A fraction of the money is recoverable, and most of it is not coming back. At sentencing, U.S. authorities make a point of saying the victims weren't all wide-eyed strangers. Many were sophisticated insiders, the kind of people who pride themselves on reading everyone else. Turns out a famous surname reads pretty well from across a candlelit table. The fingerprints killed the myth. Christopher Rockefeller didn't survive booking. 2 years in custody, $1.2 million in restitution, deportation. Back in France, he picked up new charges, influence peddling, corruption, because the instinct never left, just the zip code changed. And here's the thing, the judge made sure to say at sentencing, the victims weren't naive. They were sophisticated, connected. Exactly the kind of people who should have known better. Christophe didn't fool the gullible. He fooled the confident. Because confidence is the one thing that makes you stop asking questions. He couldn't inherit old money, so he rented the idea of it. And when the bill finally came, he made sure someone else was holding it. Enjoyed this story? Leave a like, subscribe, and stay tuned for the next one. Now you know.